Party's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minutes!
Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Bat Minutes and Robin. This is the podcast where we got something you might want to see every minute of Batman and Robin, 1 minute at a time. I am one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
I am your other host, John Parker, and essentially all I'm doing is talking through the movie. I'm doing nothing but talking through the movie.
People sitting begrudgingly listening to this. I hate when people talk about the movie, particularly in minute-by-minute formats. But we're joined this week by a voice that should be very, very familiar to long-term listeners of the show. One of the people who's been on the show the most, I think, in terms of recurring guest parts, is, of course, Stephanie Palacino.
Hello! How are you guys doing?
Hey,
yeah,
pretty good. We're excited because we're doing, clearly, the greatest movie ever made. And I like the way people probably think I'm joking. You underestimate my love of this film, despite me making fun of it for the past 40 minutes.
I think I am getting I'm very definitely in the Stockholm Syndrome point with it. But
this movie definitely, that's a great freaking way of saying it. I'm like, oh yeah.
But again, like when I've sent, booking guests sends the clips to them now, and they write back like, "Oh God, this movie," and I'm like, "What's the problem? Like, what? Was this you don't like it?" Like,
yeah, I mean, I understand that they don't like it. A lot of people who come on, and I imagine Stephanie, you're probably the same.
It's a love-hate relationship. I will say that.
So where do you come at this movie then? Like, so you're around the same age as us.
I watched it as a child in the theater.
Hey.
Like I actually did, but I also am like, so I do have like, I don't have like I remember enjoying it as a kid, but even as a child, I knew it was bad because I had watched the previous one and I thought that one was like the pinnacle of cinema, right? And I was like, this seems a little weird, but it's colorful. It has some interesting actors in it. And yeah, like, I don't know. It's like, I can't hate it because it's like still fun. Like, it's just a fun movie. Like, maybe it's like, it's like one of these movies you go through in phases. It's like, wow, that was bad. Oh, maybe it's actually not that bad. And you know what? I just love it for the campiness. It's like peak Joel Schumacher.
Hell yes. Hell yeah. That's all, brilliantly said. I think that's why I like it so much.
Joel Schumacher, man, who was frequently peaked, but just not in that way that you're talking about. But,
oh my God. Now, see, with me as well, I didn't even pick up that it was bad. Like, I think because it's made for me, it's silly, it's over the top. It's got Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. It introduced me to Uma Thurman looking like one of the most gorgeous people to ever exist.
I mean, I'm always a little impressed at her thin late 90s eyebrows, or her mid 90s eyebrows, which were like pencil thin. That was the style at the time. And I'm like, ooh, how did we think that was hot? I mean, she is a beautiful woman, but I'm just saying, like, the makeup and stuff is just so quintessentially of that era.
Oh, it is. It is. She makes it look good, but a lot of people probably wouldn't.
Yeah. But today, though, we're here to talk specifically about minute 40 of, we say it every year as we go through, but like, holy crap, we're at minute 40 already.
I think at least once a week, starting each week, we go, how did we get here?
It does feel like, oh yeah, we're getting ready to start recording this season. Now we're about near halfway through the movie, but like, holy crap. Mm-hmm. Anyway, minute 40 begins, it opens with Arnie in a bit of state, and it ends a minute later with an epic view of a gothic cityscape. I was going to say landscape. It's not really a landscape, it's a cityscape.
Yeah.
We come in here with, we've got Arnie, Victor Freeze. Of course, last week he was watching video of him and Nora eating wedding cake.
I just love how none of their electronics crap out because of the cold. Like, I'm like, I hate to point this out.
If the temperature goes up in that factory ever so slightly, everything is going to short out. Like, it's just all it requires is one drip of ice to go in back of a TV.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why he has so many. He's just like, if one goes, I've got 10 others. It's fine.
I mean,
he's a genius as well.
I give Arnie like props for having to freaking sit in the makeup chair as long as he did to put this makeup on. Like, I'm like, Jesus Christ, this poor man. Like, this was impressive.
And it's applied so flawlessly, I think.
Oh, no, it looks great.
Arnold's,
It actually does look great.
Yeah.
Well, that's something we've noticed in this movie. Most of the film looks wonderful.
Well, you cannot fault like the set dressing and most of the costumes and stuff. Like, people were saying actually in the listeners' cave the other day, like, oh yeah, the like poo-pooing the freeze suit and saying it makes Arnie look fat. I was like, I've never got that. Like,
I never got that feeling. I mean, it's funny because like Mr. Freeze is such a like it's a character I really love. So like I don't know if I've ever talked about this before, but I might have. Like I have some burlesque dancer friends. Shout out to them.
Hey.
They had a show that was Batman themed. And I, a long time ago, was going to join the show with my partner at the time. And we were going to do Mr. Freeze and Nora Freeze. Like, and we were going to make it like a really romantic thing together, like where I'd be asleep and then I'd come awake for the dance and then go back to sleep underneath. And we were going to put cut in, the very famous quotes from the 90s TV show, from the 90s cartoon, because his voice like that was it's a beautiful character. And this movie takes a lot from the 90s version, the 90s cartoon, sorry, the 90s version, it's a 90s movie. I mean, the 90s animated show, which is like a masterpiece. Everybody's always like the masterpiece that is, Pinnacle Batman, the 90s animated series. Because like to me, I'm sorry, that's the best Mr. Freeze I've ever gotten. And they try to emulate that in this movie, I think a little bit. But I do really enjoy the fact that what he does to this poor like talk about shooting the messenger. All right.
Well, one thing though, just even before we hop to that is because we did have briefly last week, the shot of like Mr. Freeze, watching him and Nora eating the wedding cake and stuff. And you just, I'm only gonna get cake was so good. I just I'm so sad that the cake is gone now.
It just made me think about Commando when he's eating ice cream with his daughter.
That's right.
She
Feeding
pushes
the
it on his
deer.
nose. Yeah.
Feeding the deer, Jenny and me. But it actually reminded me of something we did talk before. Like, what does Mr. Freeze actually eat? Because does he have to just eat frozen food? And then I remembered, and I know you probably would have seen this as well, Stephanie, that the Harley Quinn cartoon actually addresses this.
Oh God, yes, it was actually pretty funny.
Yeah, because Mr. Freeze invites like the whole crew around for dinner, like it's Harley and Clayface and King Shark and stuff. But he's just like he's not eating anything, and he's just like, tell me how it tastes. Like I can't remember how things taste. Describe the food going into your stomach for me. And they're just like, this is really fucking creepy, man. You gotta
like
stop
how they made
doing
him
it.
like I assume Austrian. I was like, he wasn't before, but now he was in the Harley Quinn version. I'm like, I thought that was an homage to Arnie's version. I was like, I think that was in my head canon.
I think the character should be, surely. I mean, his name sounds sort of Germanic.
Well, that's the thing. I think it all actually stems from one specific interpretation of Mr. Freeze prior to Arnie. I think it all dates back to the 60s show and the second version of Mr. Freeze they had in that, when it was Otto Preminger played him.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And people don't know, Otto Preminger is like, it's baffling that he played Mr. Freeze, because like he was like a very, very well-respected director at the time. Like
it's a bit like Werner Herzog turning up in The Mandalorian.
It's
Oh
actually,
my God, I think he does. Like I always think that I'm like he does it for fun. Like that's just for fun.
Yeah,
Like, woo.
but if, like Werner Herzog showed up in blue makeup with big bushy like ginger eyebrows and was just acting crazy, I'd be like, yeah, that's exactly what it's like. But
So Werner Herzog should have played Baby Yoda.
but Otto Preminger like made like Anatomy of a Murder, which like big courtroom classic with like James Stewart and stuff. He made Bunny Lake is Missing, which is a fantastic movie. Features Clive Revell actually, who was the original voice of Emperor Palpatine actually in Empire Strikes Back, and the original voice of Alfred in the Batman animated series. So
There you go.
everything's connected.
All circles back. I mean, it is connected since I'm living in Hollywood right now. It's like funny, but not really, because everybody knows each other and it's a very locked off system and it's really hard to break into. And once you get into, then you're okay. But like, I'm like, that's like, laugh and then cry.
Oh,
That's why some people who got out then, like, Mira Sorvino trying to break back in, it's like, no, you like, I know you got out for, like, you were forced out for horrible reasons, but now that you are out, you can never come back in. Like,
Yeah, it really is a little bit like that. By a little, I mean it's like that a lot. Yeah.
But yeah, that was the thing. Like, they made a big thing of Otto Preminger's Mr. Freeze being like being German. Like, even at the end, because he keeps talking a very thick German accent. And again, he's just bizarre looking. He's got huge, bushy ginger eyebrows, bald head and stuff. But at the end, like, even the announcer's going like, "Could this be the end?" Oh no, sorry. Could this be the end? But apparently, yeah, I think that all passes over into why they cast Arnie. It was just like, oh, yeah, he's supposed to be like German, Mr. Freeze, right? Because that version of the character left such an iconic impact, even though he wasn't even the last guy to play him.
Yeah, I mean, because in the 90s version, he just had I mean, I wouldn't say he didn't have an accent. He had a Mr. Freeze way of speaking, but he was creepy, but also like robotic, which I liked. And Arnie took such a different turn on it, but I'll say that I like Mr. Freeze. Is definitely one of my favorite villains of like the Batman universe. I think he is my favorite villain, if I have to be completely honest. I know.
Ooh.
I'll say that. No, I definitely think so. I think he has the most interesting motivation. He's more relatable. Like, he's not just like an agent of chaos. He's like, I have the woman I love, and I will do everything to get this person back. And like the things we do for love. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be evil, really. He just wants to save his wife. It's like, that's nice.
That's even in that Harley Quinn interpretation. They actually do a really great job with it, because they all think Mr. Freeze is just inherently evil. They don't know his backstory. At one point, he freezes Harley and puts her up for display in the Iceberg Lounge, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's evil son of a bitch!" And then when they rescue her and they go to take revenge on Mr. Freeze, he's like, "No, I was protecting you. They wanted to kill you. I was preserving you so they wouldn't kill you." And then they keep thinking, because Nora's frozen in such a horrific way, they're like, "He's keeping this woman prisoner. What an asshole!" And then when they let her out, like, she only has, like, it's like, yeah, he has to do a transfusion so she can live and he'll die. And she's like, she ends up being invited to Poison Ivy's, like,
the hen do, exactly.
And she's just like, "I know, I'm just a pity invite because you killed my husband."
Yeah.
That was a great show. Well, one thing I will say, actually, though, in speaking again about the Otto Preminger version of Mr. Freeze and Nora Freeze, because, of course, Nora was invented in the mid-90s, and back in the 60s, there was no Nora Freeze, by process of elimination. I'm sure you figured that out. But I think they're within those Otto Preminger episodes, there is a kind of build-up to what Nora would become, because the plotline of those, the two-parter he's in, Mr. Freeze abducts Miss Iceland, because he's lonely, and he puts her in a little narrow cell, and is gradually lowering the temperature so she'll become frozen like him and fall in love and marry him, basically.
Oh, that's cool.
And the way he keeps going over and talking to this woman who's standing freezing to death, basically, and she's kind of held in this little cell. It's very reminiscent. It's like, oh, this is kind of like a proto-Nora scenario here. And then that would be adopted in the comics. They did like a darker flip of it in the late 70s. In Batman 308, it'll be a cold time in the old town tonight. The issue was called.
That's a good old reference.
Yeah. You got that's from February 1979, story by Len Wein. But in that, Mr. Freeze is working with this woman, Hildy, and her whole thing is that she's actually using him because he's trying to figure out how to cryogenically preserve people kind of like him again. But she wants him to do it so she can preserve her beauty, essentially, for as long as possible. And her whole thing then is like, eventually Mr. Freeze, like, when he does it to people, he accidentally turns them into like ice zombies. At one point, you think he's done it to Batman, but turns out Batman's just faking. And as she's like,
well, it's funny that you mentioned that. No, like, not to interrupt. Go ahead, keep going. But I will jump off of that woman after, because I believe it was a '90s character, right? Like in the animated show, I remember a villain just like that.
Oh yeah. But as this woman thinks that Batman's like, an ice zombie, she's talking to him about like how much she's got the hots for Batman, basically, and she's like, "Oh, we'll go just get rid of this Mr. Freeze asshole. Once he finally does this thing to me, and I can just dump him, then me and you can hook up, maybe." And then Mr. Freeze comes in like, "Oh, you were planning to betray me," and blah 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 blah. But then the thing is, eventually a big fight between Freeze and Batman. She gets a hold of the freeze gun, but the nozzle and it's broken or whatever, and it actually backfires on her. So then she's like this frozen woman who was once Mr. Freeze's love interest. And again, it's kind of like there's a building blocks of Nora Freeze kind of coming through there. We could see, people familiar with Mr. Freeze's material might have been like, well, we can do a spin on this guy using elements we have to hand already. So
the building blocks were there.
Yeah, I like it.
Also, just a quick note as well that apparently that woman who played Miss Iceland was a lady called Dee Hartsford. Apparently she was married to Howard Hawks. So there you go.
Ooh.
And her sister was married to Groucho Marx. So
What?
That's
Really?
that's back again. Hollywood very incestuous even back then.
It's still that way. There is Arnie and God. Hey boss, I always feel bad for these random henchmen.
Oh yeah, this is Mr. Freeze now fulfilling 4 for 4 now. The villain killing one of his henchmen.
I didn't think he killed
Like-
this guy though. I just assume he's like, yeah.
Well, that's the thing though. Unless he thaws him out within 11 minutes, this
Yeah,
guy
true.
is dead.
What
I mean,
an
you never see that happen.
arbitrary number of minutes. You have 11 minutes. Exactly. Like, what about, do we account for different people's like physiological conditions? Like, I'm
That's
just
a good
curious
point.
about that. What if I have a heart condition?
A lot of people would be like, yeah, as soon as they get hit by the ice beams, they have a heart
exactly.
attack.
They just had a
Already
heart
dead.
attack.
Yeah. So Mr. Freeze, like, he unfreezes this guy and he's dead. It's like, oh crap.
Well, it's a bizarre thing though, because it's like the way they've created the finished movie, they're making Mr. Freeze like accidentally, or maybe it is intentional. They're making him like darker because remember we saw like how miserable and controlling he was of his goons earlier when he had them all singing the Rankin Bass. I'm Mr.
Yeah.
But, like, In the novelization and even the script, I think it's supposed to be like they're all having a genuinely good time. And at one point he's just like, oh, everyone's having fun but me and stuff. And then they change it to like, no, he's controlling them and they're miserable working for him.
He's
They also
making
took out
them up.
a scene where he freezes Frosty all the time. Like he freezes him and then he's got like a thaw gun. Like a thaw option on the gun. So he melts him out whenever he wants. Which would be fair enough if you had that here. But the fact that they don't contain that in the movie will just lead us to believe like, oh, so this poor asshole has gone into the boots of Bob the Goon, Fat Clown from Batman Returns. That was what they called him. That's not me, just insulting the guy.
Yeah, I'll defend you. That's true, Niall. Yeah.
Yeah, Two-Face shot the helicopter goon in Batman Forever at the start with a phrase.
I mean, and don't get me started on freaking Bane from the like later movies. Like I'm like, damn, talk about killing a crap ton of people, like your own people, and everybody's so loyal to you. Why, Bane? What kind of benefits are you giving these people?
I don't they actually keep it going though. See, because I think the Joker definitely killed. He blows up that one.
Well,
guy
that's the
with
Joker. You expect that, yeah.
Yeah, but just he's keeping it going. This Ra's al Ghul or the Scarecrow, we'll have to keep an eye out when we're doing Begins, I guess, to see did they kill anybody? Like,
I'm pretty sure Ra's al Ghul does, but like I think like he's like a little bit too like into his own myth.
I don't know. I think he might kill like a guy just for the sake of like showing that he's in charge. I think maybe he does kill a guy. Like when going into that train, he maybe kills one of his own men.
Yeah,
or
that's what I was
something.
thinking. I was like, but I'm like, okay, the only way this would work, and now this is going like on a very strange tangent, but I was thinking to myself, I'm like, how do they get these goons to like follow them? I'm like, well, it has to be like a cult. Like they gotta be Jim Jonesing these henchmen because that's the only way that they're like, yeah, cool. It's like, what are you paying them? Like you're treating them like crap. Like
Yeah.
You're freezing them.
Yeah, exactly. And they're down to basically die for you. And there's a lot of them. And I'm like, okay, it's even the best megalomaniacal people in history still had people like underneath, like, like, yeah, maybe we got to get rid of this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys ever watch Death of Stalin?
Oh yeah.
Oh God, it's such a good movie. I highly recommend to all Bat listeners.
The goon who comes in, right? Frosty. Great name. But his acting, right? It's terrible, but I love it. I think it's deliberately, wonderfully terrible. It's so silly and over the top and like, hey, boss, like.
Hey, boss, exactly. Look at his face. It's like he's got that mouth open situation with, okay, a lot of, I was making, see, this is my being a classist jerk, where I was like saying, I was making fun of, I won't even specify what region of the UK, where like, I was like, they open it, they're like, mouths never close. And I was like trying to do the accent. I will let you guess where. But I was essentially sounding like a very like a scullery maid essentially. Like I was doing that.
Machine you drink, Gavin.
Yeah, sure. And like this guy,
right.
but some Americans do it too, and he does it. He's got like his mouth kind of open when he's talking. Hey, boss, like I'm from Boston, like that kind of like bad, almost like a bad Bostonian accent.
I love it. Even better if it's a fake Bostonian.
Oh my god, those are the best ones because it's like so exaggerated. Like a real Bostonian is like Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, and who's the more angry version of Matt Damon? Mark Wahlberg. There he is. Mark Wahlberg, infamously so.
So this goon, he's brandishing a newspaper, and it says that Bruce is loaning his diamonds to be part of the flower ball, right? And that always confuses me though, because it's like, in what context are they just for people to look at?
He's like the queen, they're like, it's like the Tower of London, we just got the jewels that you'll never be able to wear.
Yeah.
The whole thing is like a bizarre thing across purposes. Like, you're going to present diamonds at a flower-based ball. Like, because diamonds and flowers mix? Like,
yeah, that doesn't make sense either. That's another excellent
makes no sense
point.
at all. And that's called, like, well, I'll get to it in a couple of minutes' time, but like the heart of ISIS. What the hell's that got to do with flowers and stuff?
Terrorism nowadays. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. That was the thing, too. I remember when we were talking about, like, what should we call the Freeze Goons? And I wanted to say ISIS. And then I was like, is that too controversial?
No, that's brilliant.
To joke around calling Mr. Freeze's Goons ISIS.
Hey, well, you want to know something funny that like never gets, well, obviously it'd be a little too, but we didn't find that out till later. Diamonds are not actually that rare. It's just all the mines are like owned by like the De Beers company.
That does not surprise me.
That's actually a real thing. It's like diamonds are not that rare. It's just like one giant conglomerate owns them all, and they make it so that, they can't, no one else can get them.
It's a clever marketing ploy, but it's a scam.
Yeah, it is. And I got one of those scams when I got married. I like it. It's shiny. Pretty.
They are nice. I mean, there's a reason people want them.
But that's the weird thing. This whole thing, again, beautiful piece as Frosty comes in, gets frozen, and now we've got another Rick Baker created, frozen figure. I'm going to say figurine, much bigger than that, but you can actually buy this one, or I think it's sold. Sold off Rick Baker's own website at auction for between $2,000 and $3,000.
Oh, that's affordable.
What? I mean,
yeah.
Okay, I'm just paused literally at sec 6, and it's just like I'm frozen, at this scene, and you know what? I can tell you right now why. I could see why so many people like this movie now that they might not have. You don't see set design like this anymore. Like you just don't. Like set design now is like green screen. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, this looks like I could touch it. Like I could be on a ride at Gotham.
Yeah.
You could have owned it if you wanted to have this guy in your house.
Well,
but the most amazing thing about it is, though, on the website, you get like really detailed photos, and the paper came with it. And so I actually got to sit and just like from the picture, got to read the article that was on that paper.
Oh, I tried to with the film. I didn't realize you could get that.
I'll put the HD picture up on the listeners' cave when we go. But like the thing is though, the actual main article isn't that great. Like it is just very generic. Bruce Wayne's donating these, and the people are.
Oh wait, but
happy
they did actually write a fake article then, unlike in previous movies where they just copied and pasted.
Wasn't exactly gonna win a Pulitzer, huh?
Yeah, but it wasn't like the Onion with the passersby were amazed by the unusual amounts of blood and all that stuff. But the thing is, below it, I was like, oh my god. There actually is another story you can barely see, but once you have the model of the actual paper. The headline, Smoky Suburbs, Gotham residents can't breathe. And the story briefly says, the nuclear power plant just outside Gotham has been investigated for the abnormal production of toxic waste.
What?
That's like, that to me is like,
that's
Max
the movie.
Schreck did it. That was Max Schreck's whole plan, was to build a freaking nuclear power plant. That was the whole reason he was trying to get Oswald Cobblepot elected. We kind of, after the movie, forgot about it. Turns out he did it. That freaking power plant got built, even against Bruce Wayne's wishes, and now it's poisoning people.
That doesn't surprise me either. That sounds like something that would actually happen in real life.
Yeah. I think I'm personally headcanoning that now, though. That is Max Schreck's power plant. Chip Schreck is running it, but he didn't know about the whole power sucking capacitor aspect of it. So now he just became like a neon salesman, and that's why Gotham is so brightly colored all the time. It's because they got a nuclear power plant that's just got a surplus of power zooming into the city. So they're like, make everything light up. Bring neon piping into everything, for the love of God.
That's what's making it glow.
Yeah, personal headcanon.
I like it. I accept it.
Yeah. But also on top of that, though, because I know, John, you have like the thing you love bringing up about Mr. Freeze's Arnie renting this Mr. Freeze.
Oh yeah, I have
to
to bring it up all the time because I have to tell each guest, and it's like Niall's gonna have to edit like this out 1,000 times.
But also in looking at the frozen bust or whatever you want to call it of Frosty here, did also find out that apparently one of Arnie's freeze suits sold for $40,000 at auction. So Arnie's been renting that thing for $1 a year. So at this point, it's only paid $24 for the rental of that freeze suit. Some other asshole had to pay $40,000 for it.
Hey, you know what? It's Arnold. He's earned the right to not pay more than that.
That's true. He's adding value to it. Anytime he wears it, it gets worth more.
Yeah.
Although the thing, once Arnie goes, if then they sold that, it'd be like it was worn by him and also kept by him for like 40 years afterwards, or however long he lives.
Yeah,
it'd be crazy.
I want Arnie's one because I imagine I've brought the fact up that he's got it, but I imagine that there's multiple, so like that's not a surprise to me. I saw some people shocked, like, I thought you found out, because I supplied the link as well, if you remember. I thought you found out Arnold had it. It's like, yeah, there's more than one.
Oh, yeah, you need about 10, I guess, on set.
Arnie's got the best one, the one.
I wonder if he puts it on sometimes. Like, he's like, I just got to put it on. Like,
apparently he turns it on because the batteries still work.
Oh, cool. Well,
Arnie's always on. He doesn't have to turn anything on.
Yeah, there's some... Right, okay. After a spate of high-profile diamond thefts, does this not, the thing on the newspaper, totally seem like a setup to catch Freeze? It's on the front page of the paper. Why would that be front page news?
It is post-box Gotham, where everyone was brain damaged from the box, sucking everyone's,
true.
So I think it is just like Mr. Freeze will be like, well, yeah, everyone here's an idiot. Of course they would tell me to come and take this diamond that's in this noose of rope underneath a box.
Yeah.
It might as well be with how obvious this plan is. Jesus Christ.
Freeze will take the bait. Yeah, sorry, that's for later.
We'll say, too, I never noticed how unsubtle that is. It was only in like recent viewings that I got that Mr. Freeze's very nice is like ice.
Yeah, I wrote that down
nice
because he goes nice.
Nice.
I thought he was just very appreciative. I thought he was doing like a proto Borat thing.
Very nice.
But like no, I think it is supposed to be like no, it's nice. It's like
that's a great one. They worked a pun in that even went over our heads. Now that's how genius these writers are.
So sophisticated was the writing of Akiva Goldsman.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna point out something that I see in this clip that just I don't know if it drives me crazy or would this be acceptable? Your actual last name is Freeze, which could be possible. I actually know someone whose last name is Freeze.
Yeah.
Like German, because I'm married to a German, so
it makes sense. It's a German name.
Freeze in the sense it like freeze, that's spelled the same way, but it's actually spelled the same way as his actual name should be spelled.
Yeah, it's like Freeze, isn't it?
Freeze or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I'm thinking to myself like, here he's giving his wife, the future Mrs. Freeze, like diamond snowflake because it's Freeze, get it? And that's her name, get it? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know how I'd feel about that. Like, it's like,
yeah, it's a bit too much. Almost.
It's almost like imagine you're like your last name is Archer. Here, I got you an arrow.
Isn't that funny?
Because she's taking his name as well. It's kind of like Homer thrusting Marge's wedding ring, going, "You see what this is? It means that she's my property,
and I own her."
Yeah. But it really is. It's like, yes, that's right. You're mine now. No,
you belong to Freeze.
Thank you for this. I'd take it. I'm not gonna say no to that. But it's like one of these things I could only wear at winter. I'm like, if I wear this in summertime, I'll look like a dummy.
I tell you what, though, I do also kind of like that he even then just sort of leans into the thing. Like, yes, I get it. It's funny. My name is Freeze.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks it's great.
Honey, that's so clever. Oh, yes.
This will be our little thing together, yes.
So like, meanwhile, at the university he works at, everyone's like, "Oh Christ, here he comes!" Like, "Hey guys, I thought I'd just slip in."
Freeze, everyone. Yeah, it was a joke
Just
at the
Victor.
time. Now he uses it. He's like, "God damn it."
He was just waiting till he got tenure, and they couldn't do anything about it. And then the freeze puns just flew.
God damn it. We wanted rid of him.
Yes, they're coming like a flurry.
Yeah, oh my god! I used to date a guy whose dad was named, it's pronounced Hilario, but it's spelled Hilario. And so the puns that we would get if he used the word hilarious, it's not hilarious.
He thought he was Hilario.
It's Hilario. I'm like, oh my god.
I kind of love that though. I'm a sucker for a good dad joke.
I'm kind of jealous. I wish I had a punnable name. Like, I wish I could think of a million things that rhymed with my name. Like, no, I got nothing.
My name,
nothing.
Absolutely not. I guess
Instead-
Palace.
Instead, Niall, you just get people calling you Neil by accident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come here, Neil. It's Neil, isn't it? No, come on.
But it's so many though. People like that's one of my things though. Like after we spent so much time talking about like Chase Meridian and like, oh, so Chase Meridian in the finished movie is a bit of a dunce, and the novelization portrays her in a much more positive light because she actually figures out who Batman is straight away.
No,
and stuff
don't
like
be
that.
insulting. She's just horny.
Well, that's the thing though. We was like, there's a positive spin. There was like, oh, she's sex positive, career woman, yada yada yada. Ends up a damsel in distress, of course, but whatever. And then this movie is like, well, Joel tries to objectify everyone equally, but the fact he does cast a lot of supermodels to just be nameless set dressing, and that will be exemplified in minutes later this week
I know,
as well.
but like I will give him, he did do Uma Thurman all right. I like his Poison Ivy.
Yep, she's
You know
a
what?
badass drag
she
queen.
is not a model. Uma Thurman is an actress. She is beautiful, but I wouldn't call her like modelist.
Well, she began her career as a model. Her mother was a model. She started off as a model,
And her daughter
then-
is pretty smoking too. Like
yeah. Very much so, yeah.
have you heard the rumors that they're thinking of making the Kill Bill sequel with the daughter as
Yeah.
with what's her
Oh,
name?
it'll be like Vivica A. Vox's kid and
Yes.
Maya Hawke.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
nice.
think that would be excellent. Like, I'm like, yeah, Maya Hawke I'm sorry, but she's like exactly between her two gorgeous parents, they made a gorgeous child, which,
Oh,
fun
yeah,
fact
yeah.
does not always happen. I know people think they're like, oh my God, these two celebrities are going to make the most beautiful child in existence. I'm like, sometimes, it does work. And other times it's like, oh no, throw this one, into the attic and lock it away. It's like,
Cast it into
Well,
the
the
fire.
That should be the thing though now, because we always have the question of like, oh, who would be a good modern day Poison Ivy? Is like, well, Apple doesn't have to fall that far from the tree. Maya Hawke's in her 20s now.
Oh.
Well,
So Freeze though he freezes the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He doesn't like his private time being interrupted. He's Vader in the egg.
Yeah, I do have so much appreciation though, for like that snap, like turning the eyes to him. I feel that.
To
Arnie.
be
Like,
fair,
I've been there myself.
yeah, like to be fair, look at how he's got the slippers on and stuff. I'd also be embarrassed if someone like caught me when I was just like in my underwear, like wearing my fuzzy slippers as I'm just watching back some old movies and getting all emotional.
Yeah.
That was this is a weird one to bring up, and this could potentially go off on another tangent. So I'll try to make this brief. But like in one of our bonus episodes the past week, I remember from watching one of your videos long time ago, like that you were talking about like holes in your underwear and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And then we, in the episode, we're talking about underwear. And I was like, oh, I just watched, I'm sure she won't mind me saying because she put it up on YouTube
Yeah,
as
it
well,
was
but
recent.
Stephanie Palacino. Yeah, but no, this is a while back. That, we recorded that like 12 weeks ago. And then that episode came out. And then this week you've now put up all this things about like, you bought new underwear. And I was like, oh, shit. Is Stephanie going to make this video where she's like, these f***ers in Batman,
No!
we're talking about my
No,
hunt.
I didn't think about that at all. Like, I mean, I do like. I just thought it was funny because, like, it just was a story that happened to me in my underwear. Like,
Hey, and as I said on that bonus episode, everybody's got backup underwear. Anyway, I've got like 3 or 4 pairs that are full of holes. They're the backup ones when the good ones are in the wash.
Yeah, everybody needs to like. It's true. I don't like to throw out underwear. I'm like, this thing's better fall apart on me. Like, I'll tie them back together too. I'll be like,
Well, that's the thing. Like, again, as a cis het male, like my underwear is basically like, oh, that until it turns to dust, it's fine. Like it's there is no reason I need to buy new ones. Like
Once every 6 years. That's now.
Yes, exactly.
Dude.
It's just like, well, unless literally the elastic band's gone, like, why would I replace it?
Admittedly, like that was part of it. Like it was funny because, like I say it in the video, but it's like it was my dad who was like, "Steph," like Jesus Christ. And it's funny to be 35 and having your father tell that to you. It's like, okay.
Oh God, yeah. Oh my God. We get here in the minute a classically delivered Arnie line, which I alluded to before. So I've got to bring this up. I feel after he's frozen Frosty, he just says, "I hate when people talk during the movie."
Oh yeah, I always skipped over that. Oh.
And then look at the audience.
Yeah, it's so good. Because who's he talking to?
You
Who's he
there
speaking to?
with your. I was gonna say with your phone out, but I'm like, no, this is the '90s. Maybe that one giant phone.
Weirdly enough, though, I remember Batman and Robin, the theater going experience, it being the first time I noticed people talking in the theater.
Oh,
like, so I think it's actually, it might have contributed to like why I like going to the cinema by myself and stuff. Because I think when I was a kid, going to the cinema was rare treat and stuff. And I remember going to see Independence Day, and there was this hugely tall person in front of me, and I couldn't see half the screen. Oh. And that was just like, oh my God, I was so excited to see that movie. Couldn't see half of it because some asshole was in front of me. And then I remember being so excited to see Batman and Robin, and people talking all around me during it. And I think now that's why, like, when I go to cinema, I go by myself because I can arrive when I want to. I can sit where I want to.
Dude.
If someone sits in front of me who's taller, I can just move without being a fuss and stuff. And it's just like, it might all stem from these, like, oh yeah, try to watch friggin' Mars Attacks or whatever. And some asshole was sitting, making out with his girlfriend next to me or something like that when I was a kid. So.
But he turns back to the home movie. And the weird part, I find, is that it is clearly not, in fact, a home movie. It is very clearly shot for this movie, Batman and Robin. Or did Freeze have high-grade cameras hidden around the house?
I guess maybe it might be the wedding video, so maybe they hired like
I thought it was a wedding video. It is just a really nice video. But
look at the way it's shot.
Yeah. It is very well lit and stuff. It does look very
yeah. I know nowadays I would be perfectly like normal because nowadays people shoot their freaking wedding videos like they're putting on a full-on production.
Yeah, which is ridiculous.
Dude, I don't even have I have a wedding video, but not a like official one. I didn't have a videographer is what I mean.
No, good. You're not gonna sit and watch it. Let's be honest.
You know what?
You never know. What if Bosty comes down with an illness and you have to freeze him, and then you want to sit and reminisce?
Jesus Christ. Well, you know what? Every time I think about my wedding, and this is some truth bombs here, I think God, we spent so much money on that, and it was really stressful, and I didn't even enjoy it because I was like, weddings are stressful. Like you're putting on this huge event. And to me, it was like I don't get to enjoy this. This is for everybody coming. They all told me what a wonderful time they had.
And you're the center of attention. That's not a good thing. That's stressful.
It's also, exactly. Yeah. You can't really drink that much because if I'm very nervous, I can't eat. So it's like I'm not enjoying any of this. I'm like, oh yay, food. I don't want to eat this. And I'm wearing this this dress that has like a corset built into it. So it's like, yeah, I'm also not enjoying that.
I think I remember my friend Dave getting married, and like I was like, helping him like coming up with suggestions of like, oh, should you do this and do that, and he's just like, no, my aunts won't like that. My mother will complain about this. Everything was for the family.
Screw that.
Like, yeah, but his whole thing was like, if I do this, not only will I have to hear about it, then my mother will have to hear about it.
Yes, that's a real thing.
She'll be hearing all from like her sisters or her aunts or whatever, and then I'll have to hear about it from her, and it's just like just keep everyone else happy. It was his whole sort of thing of like, so I don't think he enjoyed his wedding at all. He was so stressed the whole time.
I found it very similar.
That's why I love having a small family who I barely communicate with. It's fantastic. If I just said to my parents, like, oh, I got married over the weekend, they'd be like, oh, cool, nice one. Yeah. This film in the movie, it baffles me. It's too well made. I don't trust it. I think Freeze is a creep who's hidden cameras. Because is she in a mirror there? She is, right? So you'd see the camera.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's true.
But one thing though, I have to point out, we can't leave this minute without pointing this out, is if you guys go to 41 seconds, something about Frosty's outfit is very, very distinctive.
Oh, the cod piece.
Yes, he's got a skull cod piece.
He's a fashion icon.
I do like to think that is the skull of one of his enemies, that he is...
Oh my
he's
God.
Bleached it. He's done a full-blown Predator. He's killed a guy, torn out his spine, bleached his skull and now shoved it on top of his groin.
Well, that's the only way. That's the only way to make the Predator better. He collects skulls so he can make cod pieces out of them.
Oh man, there's a guy with Carl Weathers' skull he had on his crotch the whole time.
Can you like open the mouth and pee out of it?
Oh,
yeah.
it totally has to. Oh wow.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
The Freeze now has to unfreeze him just so we can see that happen.
Like that's your zipper. Just open the.
That's amazing.
I think every time though, like when he's shivering, are the teeth of the skull also chattering in his crotch as well? Do you think? Or?
Oh my god.
We've made
who's
this
the
even
costume
better.
designer on this? Because they deserve a medal. Like, you know what? I'll say that's another thing that's like actually nostalgic. It has great costume design. Like it does have a great costume design. They just don't make them like this anymore. Now everything's so muted. Like this was the last batch of like neon, happy, bright colors.
Yeah. I want more like fun with colors. I
This
want
is like
brightness.
a rave. That's what it reminds me of. It's a rave. That's what it reminds me of.
I always remember that one because I was very excited when way back in like summer of 2007 when you got like the first like on-set pictures of Heath Ledger's Joker, but it was all like behind the scenes stuff, so it was like brightly lit, and you saw it was him like in the interrogation room where he has like the purple jacket off, and you saw the cool shirt and the bright green waistcoat, and you got to see like the colorful socks and stuff. And I was like, oh, he looks awesome. I can't wait to see this on screen. And then when you do, it's all muted.
Like,
it's all behind filters.
unsaturated.
And then half the time he's got this, and he's got this giant purple, you can barely tell it's a purple coat over the top of it. It's also heavy. It's like, you don't even really see in how cool the costume design is. You do kind of, but like, those leaked set pics were way, way better because it was like, oh, you got to see the detailing on the shirt and stuff. But at least Schumacher, because he is a costume guy. Like he came from the fashion world. You might have seen recently that Holston TV show with Ewan McGregor has Rory Culkin playing Joel Schumacher in it, and he, Holston was a fashion guy. Joel Schumacher worked for him briefly, so he's a guy for set design, for costuming. Mm-hmm. This is his forte, so it should not be surprising that all the Schumacher stuff, like even way back in throughout all of Batman Forever, like all the marketing of that movie, the iconography of like each of the posters and just like everything else, like that was all fucking great. It just looked fantastic. But
that's the thing. Yeah, there's something to love, and even if you hate the plot of this movie, you can enjoy the visuals.
Yeah, that's true. Do you guys ever remember from the 90s animated movie where the three kids were saying their versions of Batman's story, and one of the kids named Joel?
yeah. He's standing in front of like a fashion place as well. Like it's a very clear indicator. Oh no, he's standing in front of a place called Shoemakers. It says Shoemakers on the sign, and he's like rubbing a feather boa over himself, and like, oh yeah, Batman's all muscular and ripped and stuff. And it's like, and they're all going like, yeah, sure, Joel, yeah, whatever.
That's amazing.
But before we go, though, one other thing, just to go way back to the whole Otto Preminger thing, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that while Otto Preminger, of course, massively influential Mr. Freeze, was despised on set of Batman. There's a reason he didn't come back to replace him with Eli Wallach, because everybody hated him. But apparently, because he was a director, and he just asked Bill Dozier, the producer, to be like, my kids won't let me come back in the house unless I'm on Batman. They're constantly bugging me about it. He took the standard SAG fee for appearing in the episode, even though he's not technically an actor. And then once the Screen Actors Guild found out about that, they were furious and demanded that he had to pay his dues back and stuff. And apparently it cost Otto Preminger $7,000 out of his own pocket just to play Mr. Freeze. So
oh, come on.
He might have been a dick, but at least karma got him in
the
the end.
studio should have stumped up for that, surely.
Yeah, well, the guild and all those things. I shouldn't speak too much because I live in Hollywood, but let's just say they have a lot of sway.
Yeah, I can imagine. But we will head off now to the dark, dark night. We do plugs now on a Monday and a Friday. You're not getting them on Wednesday because you're losers, listeners. You're losers, all of you. Stephanie, would you like to tell people where you can be found online or promote anything you're working on?
Absolutely. So number one, you can find me as at Caffine Jedi, CAFFINEJEDI. I am on Instagram. I'm also on Twitter, but you'll never find me on there because Twitter is a cesspit. And of course, on my YouTube page, Caffine Jedi. But in order to promote something, I'm actually finally releasing Drowning in Sunshine, which is the show I was working on for so long.
Hey.
I'm releasing it because Amazon decided to kick it off because they're like, no more indie stuff for you. Yeah. But I will be putting it out on YouTube. It's a page, my other page, which is called Shark Helping Fish. So I'm going to start releasing episodes week by week. So if you guys haven't been able to watch it, it'll be on there for free. And then after that, I'll start releasing episodes of my motion comic, Lemon Drop, which will be also coming on Shark Helping Fish. So check it out.
Hey, cool. That sounds good. Check all of that out and come and speak to us on Facebook at the Bat-Minute Listeners Cave. And, all the usual Twitter, Instagram.
I'm also usually on the Facebook page of the Bat-Minute Cave, Listeners Cave. Just if anyone ever wants to interact with me, I'm usually there.
Hey, that's probably the best place because that keeps it, Batman themed. And then you can delve into the others. You can be like, oh yeah, actually Stephanie's really cool. I'm going to check out these other works. So do that because then you're including everyone in your little world.
There you go.
And Patreon, number one, Patreon people, come on, just give us a couple of dollars and you get extra stuff. It's great.
Give them the money. Yeah.
And it helps fund. I know some people probably think,
You gotta
well,
make it
maybe
OnlyFans.
well, don't tempt me.
For reals.
Some people might think. Well, I haven't got a lot of time to listen to the bonus stuff. It's fine. Give us the $2 anyway, because it funds this show.
I'll say this.
It doesn't just fund the Patreon show.
I provided a lot of great bonus stuff, and you want to find out what a communist I am, you should check out the bonus material. The communist married to a Republican. I'm not a communist. My grandfather would kill me. I'm Cuban. Just so you know.
Well, check all of that out and join us again on Wednesday for more stupidly long madness here on Bat Minute and Robin.
Next time. Jungle night, botanical balls are bouncing. They're swinging round like Tarzan boy. The elite's on fleek in outfits so chic with dazzling decor and dances by the fleet. Jungle night and Gossip Gertie's gesturing towards a gem, the ISIS heart. There's a new MC and Gordon's on the scene. This camp carnival is the cause of so much glee. Bewitched at night. Annabelle Wonder, Witch Dark Night is getting ready. Witch Dark Night. Annabelle Wonder is about to hit the floor.
We'll be back.